Welcome back to Night Terror. Put on your headphones, take a deep breath. Let's see how much your mind can handle before the sun comes up. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there.
I'm not going to mention my name, but I've been hunting in forests at night for more than 20 years. And during all those years, I've seen things that would make most people never step into the bush again. I've encountered dangerous animals, gotten lost in heavy storms, and spent nights completely alone in places where there wasn't another human being for miles. But no experience in my entire hunting life compares to what happened to me just recently, during one of my usual night hunts deep inside the forest. Even now, whenever I think about that night, I still struggle to explain exactly what I saw, because nothing about it felt normal or human. That night started like every other hunting trip. I entered the forest sometime after dark, carrying my old hunting rifle with my flashlight strapped around my head. The deeper I walked into the woods, the quieter everything became. The only sounds left were insects, distant tree branches moving slowly in the wind, and the dry leaves crunching beneath my boots. After hours of moving through the forest without seeing any animals, I eventually became exhausted and decided to rest for a while before continuing deeper into the bush. I found a giant tree with thick roots spreading across the ground and sat beneath it to catch my breath. After sitting down, I removed a cigarette from my pocket, lit it, and switched off the flashlight attached to my head to save the battery. At that moment, the only visible light around me was the faint red glow coming from the tip of my cigarette. Everywhere else around me was completely dark. A few minutes later, while sitting quietly beneath the tree smoking and listening to the silence of the forest, I suddenly noticed a faint light flickering in the far distance directly ahead of me. At first, I honestly thought it was another hunter, because the light looked similar to the kind of headlamps hunters usually wear at night, but something immediately started feeling strange about it. The light kept moving steadily closer toward my direction, but there was absolutely no sound coming with it, no footsteps, no branches snapping, no dry leaves crunching beneath boots. Nothing. Just complete silence and that strange flickering light slowly approaching through the darkness. The longer I watched it, the more uncomfortable I became, because deep down my instincts were already warning me that something about it wasn't right. Fear slowly started building inside me. Part of me wanted to immediately raise my rifle and shoot directly toward the light before whatever it was got any closer. But another part of me kept reminding me that it could actually be another hunter walking through the forest, and if I fired without knowing for sure, I could end up killing an innocent person. Then another thought entered my mind, telling me to simply switch my flashlight back on so I could finally see exactly what was moving toward me. But strangely, none of those ideas felt right. Instead, I remained seated there silently staring into the darkness while the light continued moving slowly closer. Then the moment I stood up from beneath the tree, the light suddenly stopped moving completely, instantly, like whatever was carrying it had noticed me standing up. That was the moment genuine fear hit me. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly the light changed direction completely and slowly started moving toward another massive tree standing deeper inside the forest ahead of me. I stayed perfectly quiet, barely even breathing, trying to understand exactly what I was looking at. The light eventually reached the giant tree and stopped directly beneath it for a few moments. Then something happened that I still cannot explain even today. The light slowly started climbing upward along the tree trunk. Not a person, not an animal, just the light itself. I couldn't see any body attached to it. I couldn't hear climbing sounds. All I could see was the glowing light slowly moving higher and higher up the giant tree through the darkness. My entire body became cold with fear as I watched it continue climbing until it suddenly stopped midway up the tree. Then the light slowly rotated in circles 3 times, moving anti-clockwise, before suddenly pointing directly toward my hiding place behind the tree. It repeated the exact same movement again, 3 slow rotations. Then it pointed toward me again. At that moment, I completely froze because it honestly felt like whatever that thing was, it knew exactly where I was hiding. Before I could even think clearly, the light suddenly rushed down the tree with unbelievable speed. This time I finally heard loud crashing sounds moving violently through the forest, as if something large had suddenly sprinted away through the bushes. Out of pure panic and instinct, I immediately switched my flashlight back on, grabbed my rifle tightly, and ran a short distance after it, trying to see what had made the noise. But after a few seconds, everything became silent again. Completely silent. No footsteps, no movement, no light. Nothing. It was as if whatever I had just witnessed had vanished completely into the darkness. I stood there alone in the middle of the forest, breathing heavily while shining my flashlight around the trees, but there was absolutely nothing there anymore. Till today, after more than 20 years of hunting alone at night, I still don't know what kind of creature or thing I saw in that forest that night. And honestly, I never want to experience something like that again. If you've ever been alone deep in the woods at night, then you already know the forest doesn't always feel empty. Some things out there move in ways no human or animal should. I'm not going to mention my name, but I've been a hunter for more than 20 years, and the terrifying encounter I'm about to share happened on the exact day I completed 15 years of carrying on my hunting career. That day felt very special to me, because I had spent most of my life inside the forest, surviving through hunting just like my late father taught me. I was proud of myself for how far I had come after taking over his mantle when he died. But despite the excitement I felt that day, something deep inside me kept warning me not to go hunting that night. It was a strange feeling I couldn't explain, almost like an invisible force trying to stop me from entering the forest. At the same time, another feeling inside me kept whispering that the night would bring me great luck and abundance, and as a man who had dedicated his entire life to hunting, staying home without entering the bush felt impossible to me. So I ignored the warning completely, picked up my rifle and headed into the forest, hoping that night would become one of the greatest hunting nights of my life. I walked deeper and deeper into the forest for hours, carefully searching for movement among the trees, but strangely I found nothing. Not a single animal crossed my path. The deeper I went, the more frustrated and exhausted I became, because nights like that were unusual for me. Eventually I got tired of wandering around without any success, so I sat beneath a large tree to rest for a while. The forest was unusually quiet that night, and even the air around me felt heavy and uncomfortable. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, an antelope calmly walked past me. What shocked me was how close it came without reacting to my presence. It behaved as though it couldn't see or smell me at all. Slowly and carefully I stood up, raised my rifle and fired at it. The shot was not perfect, but the bullet still wounded the animal. The antelope immediately ran off into the darkness, and without hesitation, I chased after it, determined to finish what I had started. I followed the blood trail through the forest for several minutes, moving quickly between trees and bushes. But then something impossible happened. The blood suddenly disappeared completely. There were no footprints, no broken branches, no signs showing where the animal had gone. It was as though the forest itself had swallowed it. That was when fear slowly started creeping into me. As I lifted my head and looked around, I realized I was standing in a part of the forest I had never seen before in all my years of hunting. I couldn't understand how I got there because I knew that forest better than most people knew their own homes. Yet nothing around me looked familiar. Worse still, I no longer knew which direction I had come from. For the first time in my life, I was completely lost inside the bush. I tried retracing my steps, but every direction looked exactly the same. The deeper I walked, the more confused I became. The forest was silent except for the endless sound of crickets surrounding me from every direction. No human voices, no signs of life, just darkness and strange silence. Then, in the distance, I suddenly noticed a fire burning between the trees. At that moment, I felt a little relief because I believed someone might be there who could help me find my way back home. With no other choice left, I slowly walked toward the fire. As I approached, I saw an old man sitting quietly beside the fire. His face looked calm, and there was nothing frightening about him at first glance. I greeted him respectfully and sat nearby. Trying to start a conversation, I asked him why a man his age would be alone inside such a dangerous forest at night. The strange thing was that I never once mentioned to him that I was lost. I kept that information to myself. But immediately after I finished speaking, the old man looked directly at me and calmly asked, "Are you no longer interested in going back home, or have you finally found your way?" The moment he said those words, my entire body froze. My heart began pounding hard inside my chest because there was no possible way he could have known I was lost. After gathering enough courage, I finally asked him who he was and how he knew I was searching for my way home. The old man stared quietly into the fire for a few seconds before speaking softly. Some things are better left unspoken. His answer only made me more uncomfortable, but before I could ask another question, he told me to sit down and relax. He explained that he had already been preparing food before I arrived and asked me to wait so we could eat before he took me back home. At that point, hunger was already taking over my body, so I admitted that I was starving. But what disturbed me even more was what the old man said next. He calmly told me that he cooked because of me, that he already knew I would come hungry and would need strength for the journey back home. Hearing those words sent chills through my body again. I couldn't understand how he knew so much about me. I also kept wondering where all the cooking items had come from. Earlier, I hadn't noticed any pot, ingredients, or supplies around him, yet somehow everything was suddenly there. My mind was filled with questions, but strangely, my mouth refused to speak. Deep down, I already knew I was experiencing something beyond normal understanding. After a few hours, the old man finally removed the pot from the fire and poured the food onto large leaves spread across the ground. The meal was a mixture of sliced yam, rice, and different kinds of bushmeat. The aroma coming from the food was incredibly attractive, and at that moment, my hunger completely overpowered my fear. The old man began eating calmly and motioned for me to join him. Despite all the strange things surrounding him, he looked completely real and normal. In fact, the longer I stayed with him, the safer and more relaxed I felt. I even forgot that I was lost in the forest, so I ate with him there beside the fire deep inside the bush. I honestly don't remember when I fell asleep. One moment we were eating and talking quietly beside the fire, and the next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and realized it was already dawn. The old man was nowhere to be found, the fire had completely died out, and the entire place was silent again. As I slowly stood up and looked around, a cold shiver ran through my entire body, because I suddenly recognized where I was. It was the exact same place where my late father and I used to sit after hunting together before returning home at sunrise. Then I noticed the antelope I had shot lying dead nearby. At that moment, everything became even more terrifying and confusing. I started wondering if the old man I met during the night was not human at all. Deep inside me, I began feeling that perhaps my father's spirit had visited me that night to celebrate 15 years of carrying on his legacy as a hunter after his death. When I finally returned home, I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened inside the forest. Nothing about that night felt normal to me. Later that day, I decided to visit my father's only surviving friend, who was also an old hunter. I trusted him because he and my father spent many years hunting together before my father died. After listening carefully to my entire story, the old man remained silent for a while before finally looking at me and smiling softly. Then he said something that instantly changed the way I saw the entire encounter. He told me, "My son, you are very fortunate. The man you met in the forest last night was your father's spirit. He is still walking beside you in the bush, protecting you even after death." After hearing those words, I didn't know what to say anymore. But strangely, for the first time since that terrifying night, I finally felt peace inside my heart. If this story gave you chills, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next horror story might be even darker than this one. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you met that old man alone in the forest?